What's up, y'all? It's me, Andrew Prometheus. Today's video is going to be about my first gun. Whether I think it makes a good first gun, and what I think you should do if you're getting into gun ownership as an American citizen exercising your rights. For today's drink, I got the lime jarritos. Forgive my Anglo-Saxon, as a good friend of mine likes to call it, pronunciation. I love these sodas, man. I don't drink a lot of soda anymore, so it's a nice treat. Maybe like 1 or 2 a week, right? I usually buy these with a nice burrito, to be honest with you. But let's get down to business. Now, my first gun was a Gen 5 Glock 19. No modifications. Takes a 9mm round. It's the caliber of the bullet. This is a home defense round because that's the purpose of my owning a gun. Home defense, personal defense. I like to target shoot and range shoot. I don't do any hunting as of now. I would like to learn though. I do eat meat, and honestly, I'd feel better about doing my own dirty work than having somebody else kill an animal for me, right? I have an uncle who's into hunting. One year he killed an elk. It fed him and a bunch of our family for years, man. I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, before I actually show the firearm, I'll show a couple accessories that I think are good to have. The closest range to me is an indoor range. So even if you're shooting outdoors, it's not a bad idea to have some ear protection. The ear protection I went with is the Walker's Razor, I think it's called. It takes a battery, so when you put it on, I'll show you. When you put it on, you can flip a switch on it so that you can hear what's going on. It's a pretty slim profile. Does a good job of muting. I'm happy with them. The actual weapon is a Glock 19. I'll show you it's not loaded. It's important to follow gun safety. I'm a big believer in it. I don't like to see people unsafe with their weapon, right? There's plenty of videos and courses and tutorials on how to be safe with a firearm. But, you know, I think it's important. So this is a Glock 19, Gen 5. I really like to hold it like this, but it's easier for display purposes. I'd rather hold it like this, you know what I mean? But, here's an unloaded magazine, or clip, or whatever it's called. I'm not 100% mastered. You know, I'm not the most tactical gun master guy on earth. I just like guns, and I like to talk about them a little bit. But you can tell it's been used a little bit. But just to show, there's no bullets in here. So it's a lot of lock because there's no bullets in there, right? Now that I've shown you the weapon, we can talk about it a little bit. I like to leave mine without the clip in there, not the magazine, whatever the proper terminology is. Personally, when I'm not using it or when it's not being prepared to be used, right? I like to be able to tell the difference between a loaded weapon and an unloaded weapon, even though you want to kind of always assume a weapon is loaded. That's a part of firearm safety. So you always want to check, you always want to make sure just in case a bullet snuck its way in there. You know what I mean? But this is the holster I use right now. Very simple, very basic. I'll show you it in there. I'd like to get a nicer one, but I operate more off of a need than a want basis when it comes to these things. I noticed you can spend a lot of money on guns, man. So I kind of just get what I need and then go from there. This holster works very well. I'm happy with it. If I need to tuck it, carry it, whatever, low profile. But what's the deal? Stock sights, stock grips, stock everything, you know what I mean? Even though it's unloaded, don't like to really have a weapon pointing at me. I like to point it away. That's kind of the basics. The gist. So in my own personal opinion, I'm a fan of this weapon. Obviously an all aluminum or all stainless is going to be better than, what is it, I don't know what the word is, but the plastic, basically, the plastic equivalent. You know what I mean? But it works. It does the job. It's nice and light. It's easy to conceal. All those good things. Tried and true weapon. Every time I've taken it shooting or to the range, it's worked very well for me. There was one issue where somebody kind of over lubricated it for me because they thought they knew what they were doing. I probably shouldn't have let them do that. So they put a little too much grease on it. Got a little jammed up, but as soon as I wiped that grease off, it worked great. I have not had any issues, knock on wood, with this pistol. I would buy another one, a couple more of them. I think it's a reliable sidearm. It's a reliable handgun. It's very easy to find modifications for it. It's very easy to find people that know about it. I think it's a great first gun. I do. I think that it's not a bad idea to follow my footsteps and do what I did. Right when I got it, before I ever took it shooting on my own or anything, I purchased a safety course at the range that was closest to me that I go to. Passed the safety course, right? Got their certification to be a safe shooter, and then bought a membership at the range. And I think that no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how much you think you know, being in person with somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience is very important, because you might not catch your own mistakes, right? And especially in the moment, you get a little riled up, you get a little nervous or whatever. Like, I remember my first time ever taking my pistol to the range. There was a guy right next to me in the lane. I swear he was shooting like a fucking 50 cal or something. Like, he was shooting such a high caliber of bullet that even the guy teaching me was like, damn, man, like, we got to kind of just deal with that, just kind of ignore it, just let that rock. But it's like, that can be a little distracting. That can shoot the adrenaline up if you haven't spent a ton of time around loud, high caliber guns. So something to think about, mistakes that you might not normally make, dexterity that you might normally have. You want to be careful. And before anybody asks, that's also partially why I only have the one nail on my left thumb. If I had hands filled with long nails, that'd be a whole different deal, trying to handle weapons and even lift weights and train and things like that. But I've noticed that I have no issue racking the slide, holding the gun, bracing, doing what I have to do with this one nail. But I think if I had a handful of nails, it might be a little difficult. Now, I know there are weapons that exist for women, and there are probably women out there who have longer nails and who don't have an issue with it. But this is what it kind of look like while I'm holding it. So it's, as long as you're firm, you know what you're doing, not an issue. A weapon like this can be shot with one hand. There's plenty of people out there that shoot 45 caliber weapons with one hand. So I wouldn't advise having a long nail on your dominant hand if you're trying to do what I'm doing, because that could get in the way a little bit. You don't know what you have to do on the fly and quick, and right, so that's very important. But all things said, I'm a fan of this Gen 5. I think it's affordable. I think they're available. It's not a bad option to get into the game and to, protect yourself, get used to shooting, things like that. Once again, you don't want to play with gun safety. You don't want to be in the habit of breaking the rules. You don't want to be comfortable or even develop the muscle memory of really being careless or negligent with your weapon. So if I made any mistakes in this video, I apologize, and I look forward to feedback, but I feel pretty good about what I've been taught and my ability to reproduce it and not putting myself or the people around me at risk, and actually being in a position to protect and defend against something that may potentially go wrong. But as far as the first gun goes, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Glock 19. You can tell I kind of keep it in its holster. There's nothing wrong with a weapon like this. A lot of people will tell you, you're not a man for having a 9mm, you're, a wuss or something for having a plastic gun, but they still don't want to be shot by it, trust me. And, a gun's a gun. So even a tiny little gun that fits in your sock, if it shoots a bullet, it's a gun, man. So it's to be taken seriously. It's not a joke. It's not a toy. It's not to be played with. It's not a prop, any of those things. So that's my honest opinion on my first gun. And I think if you're getting into home defense and different things like that, you could look at a shotgun. You could look at other options. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you have, women in the home or things like that, where it might be easier to kind of point and shoot with a bigger spread. But I personally have pets and neighbors, and I'd like to be a little more accurate in what I do. That's important to me. I think kind of control and accuracy is the name of the game for me. So, I'm not going to disclose what my full arsenal is, because I don't think that's a good idea. My advice to you for your first weapon is either probably a Glock 19 or some type of 9mm pistol, and then maybe a shotgun if, you don't have close by neighbors, if you don't have pets, or if you just want to have a little more margin for error, right? A little more point and shoot going on there. There's nothing wrong with that. But I did mention the kind of downsides that I see and why I personally would rather be trained and practiced with, a pistol, whether it's 9mm, whether it's a 45. In the state that I live in, you're allowed to have rifles. So if you want to get the AR going, I don't see any issue with that. But as far as a Glock 19 for your first pistol, I think it's a great first gun. I don't regret buying it. I would buy more of them, It's not my number one favorite gun on earth, but I do like it. And first time I held it in my hand, it was comfortable. The caliber and the weight was easier for me to manage. And then when I worked my way up to something like being comfortable with a 45 or a 38, something like that, I don't want to get rid of it. So I feel like because I still have it and I still want it and I still have a need for it, and it's a comfortable gun to carry if you do that, there's nothing wrong with the old Glock 19. So I think the Gen 5 is a good model. I'm not really familiar with the differences in the generations, but I'm happy with the performance and the price and the reliability that I've been able to get from it. And I can comfortably recommend it to somebody else. Being that I'm in the coaching world and that I've been coaching others for about, 8 years now. Been doing it online for about 3 or 4. About 3.5 technically. But I'm not comfortable telling someone to do something unless I've already done it and felt it work for me. And it's important for me to mention that just because something's worked for me and I've done it, doesn't mean it'll necessarily work for you. And when it comes to my coaching, I do include principles that are universal to the human anatomy. So it really would work for everybody. But there are other things that are very personal and unique. And due to genetic mutation, there's always the possibility of something different or a freak popping out, right? I'll mention real quick, I would imagine that when modern humans forked off and mutated and evolved from the Neanderthal, there might have been some Neanderthals who couldn't tell the difference, and even some modern humans who couldn't tell the difference, who thought they were the same thing. So the thing that I would challenge you is, do you think that humans have forked and evolved again already? And is this next phase of evolution among us? Or has evolution just stopped at what's called the Homo sapien? Something to think about. But that's not what this video is about. I'll probably wrap it up. Today's day 34 on my sobriety. So tomorrow will be 5 weeks. So tomorrow I'll make a 5-week update video. I ran an experiment with my routine today, but I'll wait until I have the results from that, and I'll report on that tomorrow. Prometheus out.